Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And on behalf of the Village of Cary and the Board of Zoning, Planning and Appeals, I'd like to welcome you. We're going to be talking about a couple of cases tonight that you're familiar with, two of you out there. But before we begin, there is a quorum of members here at the table. And part of our process is to ask our village clerk, Mrs. Bragg, to please call the roll.
O'Loughlin.
Here.
Kretzmeyer.
Here.
Pippin.
Here.
Graziano.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Corey.
Here. Very good. And my apologies, Neil. I was thinking that you weren't coming. I had to with Pat Jasper wasn't coming, so my apologies to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everyone. So before we begin, I just want to address a couple of things. I want to begin with a personal note. I want to say thank you to Mr. Simmons for providing us with some water. It's been a long-standing issue that some of you may not be familiar with. I've been on this committee for 10 years, and Brian was kind enough to remember a request that we made. So Brian, thank you very, very much. Little things go a long way, so thank you, especially on a hot day. Just to help you understand what we're going to be doing this evening, for the benefit of the ZPA members, you'll notice in your package there was not any minutes, and I did discuss with Mr. Simmons why that was the case, because you recall we had a meeting, it was a training session. And my understanding is that because it was a training session, no minutes are required. So that's why that's not in your packet. And I know some of you have attended these meetings before, but just to help everyone understand what's going to transpire tonight, we have two cases before us. And the first case is for a conditional use of an attached garage, a variation to the front setback, a variation to the maximum height for a detached garage, and a variation to increase the maximum size for a garage. And then the second case is a conditional use for storage yard, and I know some of you are here about that matter. The way the process works, if you remember from last time that Mr. Simmons here, our Director of Community Development, he'll give us an overview of the case, and upon conclusion of that overview, we may have some questions for Mr. Simmons, and then we'll close that part of our discussion. We'll ask the petitioner to present their case. Again, we may have some questions for the petitioner. Once that's concluded, we will open it up to the public assembled here. And you may know that there was a sign-in sheet that Mrs. Bragg is bringing to the front of the room. If you didn't sign it, not the end of the world. You should do that as a matter of public record. But if you choose to speak during the public portion of our meeting tonight, please just state your name and your address for the record. That will be very helpful, okay? That's part of our process. Once we've gone through that process, we'll close that part of our meeting. We'll probably ask Mr. Simmons to reframe our discussion against that petition. The ZPA members will have questions amongst themselves. And based upon those discussions, we'll subsequently take a vote, and then that vote is delivered back to the elected officials. And just so all of you assembled here, if you don't remember, we're an advisory committee. And so while it's certainly true that the elected officials tend to follow our counsel, that's not always the case. And for those that are the petitioners here, I do want to say publicly that we are minus one member tonight, and we are a quorum of members, but if you choose not to present your case, it's not necessary tonight because we don't have a full panel. I want you to be aware of that, so that's your decision to make, okay? So there we go. And at this time, I'm going to call village case number 16ZPA 08001. The petitioner is Mr. Richard Nantis, and I'm going to ask Mr. Simmons to give us an overview of this case.
Thank you, Mr. Court. Request this evening is for a proposed expansion of an existing detached garage for the property located at 405 Mildred Avenue. As proposed, the garage will be expanded into the front yard to require a few variances as far as front yard setback, overall height of the structure, and then the ground floor area of the proposed garage. This slide shows the proposed improvements. The garage is located in the left-hand portion of the slide. In the area that's marked in the red box indicates the proposed expansion. At the existing, the garage is about 450 square feet in area. The proposed expansion would add to that to bring the total structure up to 816 square feet on the ground floor. This slide shows the proposed floor plan. The first floor plan would include the 15-foot addition to the front of the structure, would remain a two-car garage entryway, but would also include an attic space above for additional storage. The elevations, which are on the right-hand side, indicate proposed conditions of the garage. You can see in the right side elevation the kind of breakdown of the existing garage and what would be considered a new addition. So in addition to adding to the front of the structure, it would also increase in height overall. This slide shows the proposed garage in relationship to two other garages which are on the adjacent properties. The proposed height in this instance would require a variance. The maximum that's permitted by code is a 15-foot height as measured to the midpoint of the roof. In this proposal, the height of the garage to the midpoint would be just over 17 feet or 17 feet 3 inches. Similar in scale to the property, which is immediately to its on the left side if you're looking at the garage, which has a height of about 17.5 feet in height. The floor area would also require variance. The maximum that's permitted by code is 600 square feet. The proposal would increase the ground floor area to 816 square feet in this instance, but that would be similar to the property which is on the right-hand side of the slide, which has a ground floor area around 960 square feet. Finally, a variance is being requested for the front yard setback to Mildred. As required by code, the property's front yards are off of Mildred Avenue and rear yards face the Fox River. There's a 30-foot setback that's required. A number of properties in this area are not conforming as far as to the front yard setback, which have numerous detached garages, as you can see in this slide, that encroach within the front yard. Some of them actually encroach into the right-of-way in some instances. It's just due to the nature of the age of the subdivision down there. But then, again, some of the garages have been expanded upon over the years that have required or reduced the amount of setbacks in the front. This slide, again, summarizes the variations that are requested. There's 3 variations that are being requested. One is the front yard setback, reducing it from 30 feet by code down to 13 feet, 13.3 feet. Again, the ground floor area, 600 square feet to 1,816 square feet is proposed. And then the maximum height for detached garage from 15 feet to 17 feet 3 inches. The zoning code lists various standards that need to be reviewed in consideration of the variation, which are shown in this slide. Essentially, the hardship was caused by unique circumstances relating to the land and not the general conditions of the district. Property cannot yield a reasonable return permitted to be used only under the standards set out in this title. Relief proposed will not alter the character of the locality, and relief proposed is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations. Likewise, for conditional uses, the zoning code provides standards for conditional use. In this case, a detached garage requires conditional use approval. Use would not be detrimental to or endanger the general public health, safety, general welfare. Use would not substantially diminish or impair the values of property within the immediate vicinity, contribute to an overburdening of municipal services, consistent with policies and future land use maps in the village's comprehensive plan. Based off a review of the existing development commissions or conditions that are in the area, again, a number of properties are not conforming from the standpoint of the front yard setback requirements due to the age of the properties and also the age of our code. Staff believes that the proposed front yard setback is in keeping with existing development patterns and likewise with the heights of the properties that are immediately in the other side of this property. The proposed height will be consistent with what is existing in the area as well for the detached structures. Therefore, staff recommends that the ZPA believes that the conditions for various conditional use are met in the property. I would recommend approval of conditional use for detached garage, the variance to reduce the required building setback from 30 feet to 13 feet, variance to increase the maximum height for detached garage from 15 feet to 17.25 feet, and a variance to increase the maximum ground floor area for a detached garage from 600 square feet to 816 square feet for the property located at 405 Milford Avenue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. So, gentlemen, do you have any questions for Mr. Simmons? I think Mr. O'Loughlin may have one or two.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part is I remember 2008 when this was enlarged. And I was on this board and approved it. I guess my main question to you here is, we're looking at a front yard setback, which that's what gives us the extra square footage. So those go hand in hand without question.
Correct.
Correct. And then the 17 is just part of just kicking up the roof line to correct with better support as well as some more storage upstairs. And that coincides with the neighboring garage as well. Okay, yeah, that's all my questions were.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a couple of, I guess, technical questions more than anything else. Is Mr. Nantis the owner of the property?
That's my understanding, and I think the petitioner that's here on behalf of them, acting in a legal capacity, can explain that further.
Okay, then the other question I have is, who is L. Fuchs, and why is that signature on the petition rather than Mr. Nantis's?
I think, I don't want to speak for the petitioner, Mr. Graziano.
Well, I was kind of asking
Yeah.
Brian,
Okay.
because he accepted the petition the way it is.
It's my understanding that Fuchs are that have power of attorney for the property, so they are responsible for maintenance of the property. Working with Mr. Nantis, so they submitted the petition on his behalf.
Have you seen that power of attorney?
Yes.
No, I have not.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Graziano?
No, that was not at this point. I just wanted to make sure we had a legal petition here and go from there.
Okay. I did ask Mrs. Fuchs with us similar questions before we began, and I think she'll probably, or someone will address that. So before we go to the next step, any other questions from the ZPA committee members? Okay. So, Mrs. Fuchs, will you be presenting this on behalf? Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, please. If you would, just state your name and address if you're in the village here.
My name is Bill Schaefer,
Thank you.
and I am with Schaefer Brothers Remodeling, and we're in Crystal Lake.
Thank you very much.
And we have done some work on Milford before, worked with Mr. Nantis on projects with previously.
So why don't we have you present, please, that wherever's comfortable for you is fine with us.
So presenting the addition, we've got a couple issues. One of them is staying in the depth that the garage is in right now. Only really fits a subcompact car. There's only about 17 feet in the existing depth of the garage that's there now. So any bigger you could, if you had a van or something like that, would never be able to fit inside the garage. That's correct. And by pulling it forward towards the street, it puts it right in line with the garage that's on both sides, and the heights that we're working with for the storage upstairs. And because of that size, the storage is needed for seasonal purposes and things like that. So we feel that one of the other issues is only being able to hold a car that small inside the garage is just kind of a deterrent when it comes time to resale time also, which we're staying pretty much in line with what's currently there and asking for the additional space for storage and uses and putting it.
Thank you. Did you have any other comments that you wanted to offer?
Not really.
Okay.
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. But before we adjourn this part of our discussion, I want to see if there's any of the members that have questions for yourself.
Yeah, based on the scale of the pictures we have here, what is the depth of the addition?
About 15 feet.
15?
Yes, 15.
Okay, and how much room is there between the back of the garage and the sidewalk going to the front of the house right now?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not.
The back end of the garage,
The back of the garage.
to the sidewalk that goes up to the front door or
Oh,
the
there's
building
probably,
itself?
I have not measured it, I'm thinking it's probably 10 or 12 feet.
It looks
Between
like
the
more
back
than
and the
that
garage.
on the drawing that you have here.
Again, I didn't measure it, but there's a sidewalk that comes around, goes around the back and the other
Correct.
side. Yes. I didn't
Okay,
measure
my
it.
question is, why are we going further into the setback than adding onto the back of the garage?
Well, because the back of the garage, there wouldn't be enough room, plus to still have the sidewalk and go.
But you don't know what that distance is.
Well, I've already said that.
Yeah, I'm just repeating that.
Okay.
So, but you're making,
I don't know
you're
exactly
making
what
a
it is.
statement that there wouldn't be enough room, but you don't know that for sure.
There's less room in the back than bringing the garage forward to make it more conforming with the garages that are on either side currently.
I
Yes.
don't care about the garages on either side, I care about this property. Okay,
Any other questions, Mr. Graziano?
no.
Gentlemen, other questions from the committee?
I have one. On top there, it's the storage, that's the plans for that?
I'm sorry, sir?
On top of the garage, your plan is to make that a storage area?
Correct.
There's no plans for future, like residential or anything up there?
No.
Just
storage, seasonal storage of equipment, things like that.
Okay. Mrs. Fuchs, I might think there is some value if you would speak to us as the committee to explain the question that Mr. Graziano raised about the legal portion of our proceeding. So if you just, for the record, again, Mrs. Fuchs, just state your name and your address.
Gloria Hughes, 356 Mildred
Yes.
Avenue, Cary. And the court appointed me appeal day back in June 2012. When Mr. Nantis had a slight stroke and became incapable of certain his body functions. And the court agreed with me and the doctors who had tested he went to Rio's assisted living until he had another issue and ended up at the hospital. And said I can take care of his bills and his property, and he had other property too that was sold. And I'm just doing the best I can.
So,
He had people interested in buying his home.
okay, so he does not reside at the property?
No, I'm trying, hospice and I are trying to get him to come out to his home one more time at his wish. And I'd like to let him see what the finish result.
Thank you, Mrs. Fuchs. And just for the record, again, it's my understanding that Mr. Nantis has been relocated to a different facility. He's no longer in Cary.
In Crystal Lake right now, where he has the best high quality care he can have. He's got 24/7 care.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Fuchs, just before we go, I just want to double check. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Fuchs?
So the home is vacant?
The house has been vacant for 4 years, yes.
And this is,
And we have tried to sell it, and there's been an issue about the garage, with most people.
Sure.
And we offered to sell it to them and have them do all this,
Uh-huh.
but they're not willing to do that, so let's see what happens now. Anything else?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fuchs. Okay, this is a time of our discussion, everyone, that if you have any questions or comments, this is the public portion of our meeting, and any one of you assembled here are welcome. Again, if you have anything to comment on, please just state your name and address for the record. Okay, I don't think we're going to have any public comment from this part of our discussion. So we're going to close the portion of our public meeting for this particular petition. And gentlemen, do you have other questions around this particular discussion? I can tell you that I personally drove by Mildred Avenue today to look at the buildings that were there. And as presented, that is the case, and I really appreciate the good work of Mr. Simmons, because the left and the right of the subject property does have garages that are bigger than the one that is currently on the subject property. And it's probably a function of that the code wasn't up to date when some of those other properties were put in place, and now we have a code and we're kind of grandfathering some activity there. But at the end of the day, it's up to this committee to make the determination of what's being requested, so if there's no questions.
I just have a comment. I too drove
Yes.
by it. And as you were saying, this proposed variances fit into the character of the neighborhood. It's certainly not a sore thumb out there. It's not going to stick out. It's really going to fit right into everything else that's going on out there. In light of your comment about the option of going backwards, the back of the garage, I didn't get out and measure it either, but it is pretty tight to the house from my observation and doing a drive-by. I think they would be challenged to go much further back towards the house without impacting. I mean, it would be right on top of the house. And I don't know if that was your observation or not, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily come to the same conclusion. I just thought that it relates to your comment about keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I drove up and down the street several times and thought, okay, I understand why this is being requested. Okay. Any other comments or questions, Mr. Graziano?
Yeah, and I guess my question or concern is that in Brian's write-up here, he indicates that this is an amendment to an existing conditional use and variations to the property. And I guess my question is, if we did a conditional use and variations previously, why was the garage not extended to 22 or 24 feet like a normal garage? Yeah, I'm sure you can't answer the question. It's just, in my mind, why are we revisiting this again?
The history in the case when it came through previously, the expansion that was performed, it used to be a single car garage. And when it was expanded only to add the second car garage. So it was, the width of it was expanded, but the depth of it was not modified at that time. So when it came through, it received conditional use approval, but it complied with the height and ground floor area requirements at that point. Now they're looking to do a second addition to the structure, which would kick in with additional variations that weren't applicable the previous time when it was expanded.
And the reference to the garages on either side, are those considered non-conforming uses now?
The garage that's located at 413 Mildred, that received a height variation, and it complies with the ground floor area requirements of 600 square feet. But the one at 401 Mildred that was approved, I believe previously to our current code, so that would be considered non-conforming under our current codes for the ground floor area and front yard setback.
Okay, you said the one at 401 Mildred meets the code, or 413 Mildred?
413 received zoning approvals in 2014, or 2004, my apologies. So the...
But only for the height variation?
Correct. There was no, it was never, a variation was never called out for the front yard setback.
Okay. So the answer to my question is these are, it's a non-conforming use?
That was considered the variation, the front yard to be non-conforming for that, for both garages on the adjacent properties.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Good questions. Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to recommend to the Village Board of Trustees approval of an amendment to a conditional use for a detached garage, variation to increase the permitted maximum height for a detached garage from 15 feet to 17 1/4 feet, variation to increase the maximum ground floor area for a detached garage from 600 square feet to 816 square feet, and a variation to reduce the front yard setback from 30 feet to 13 feet for the property located at 405 Mildred Avenue, subject to the following conditions. 1, conditional use shall be granted for the property located at 405 Mildred Avenue. 2, the color, siding, and roofing materials of the garage shall match the materials on the primary structure.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Okay, then now, Mrs. Bragg, would we call vote?
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Kreisler,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Graziano,
No.
Pickett,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes. So you have an approval, sir, to move forward, and again, I know you were here in front of our discussion. We have an advisory board. This now gets sent up to our elected officials who become the final arbiter of this discussion. Mrs. Fuchs has ordered that process, and my recommendation would be to stay in close contact with Mr. Simmons as this process moves forward. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your time.
You're welcome. Okay, our second petition is ZPA file number 16-ZPA-08-002. The petitioner is Boulder Enterprises LLC. The owner is Joseph and Laura Fuchs. And again, I'm going to ask our colleague here, Mr. Simmons, to present the overview of this particular petition.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. As proposed this evening is the zoning request for the property located at 320 Jandis Road. It's a conditional use for a storage lot. The petitioner is seeking approval this evening for location for a storage lot due to the existing business location that they have on Cary Point Drive. They need additional space for storage of equipment and materials related to their business. And are looking for expansion of this property for storage of materials. There would not be a building constructed on the property as proposed. They're seeking, under the zoning ordinance, storage lots require conditional use approval within the manufacturing district, and as opposed to being a permitted use within the district. So it requires a zoning review this evening. Again, they're not proposing to construct a building on the property, but are proposing a fence around the storage area to provide screening of items that would be stored on the lot. Providing a brief overview, this lower image on the left-hand side shows the existing conditions of the property is looking from Jandis Road. This would be the approximate location where a driveway would be installed, will be paved to Jandis Road, accessing the property. And then a 6-foot fence, wood fence is proposed around the perimeter of the area that would be utilized for storage. And then the lot within there, a gravel surface to be constructed for the storage area. The fence would be set back 30 feet along Jandis Road, which complies with the front yard setback requirements for structures within the district. And then a 15-foot setback would be maintained along all of the property lines. As the board may recall, a previous petition came before the board on this property, or this portion of the lot. This proposal is only speaking towards the 2 lots which are zoned manufacturing. The previous proposal was for an adjacent property to rezone from residential use to manufacturing use. That lot would remain as residential use or a vacant lot for potential residential use in the future. The proposal is only for the 2 parcels which are currently zoned for manufacturing. The zoning ordinance provides standards as far as the review of conditional uses, which are summarized in this slide. In summary, the use will not be detrimental in danger of public health, safety, or general welfare. Will not substantially diminish or impair values of property within the immediate vicinity. will not contribute to nor burden of municipal services and is consistent with policies and future land use maps in the village's comprehensive plan. Proposed use is compliant with the zoning designation of the comprehensive plan's designation for manufacturing uses in this district. Therefore, staff recommends approval of a conditional use for a storage lot for Boulder Enterprises for the property located at 320 Janus Road, subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff report. Petitioners here, they can provide additional information as well regarding their proposal and their proposed use plan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. Gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Simmons before we proceed to the petitioner?
I guess just a point, in the write-up you say 6-foot fence proposed around will meet the required building setbacks along the front line and the side 15 foot. Where is it stated that a fence has to be 15 feet off the property line?
It does not from a storage lot standpoint. For the use, we're requiring it
Or
to...
any looking in our, what is section 15 of the code that talks about fence, all it says is a height requirement for industrial. It didn't say anything about having to be offset.
Correct. I mean, from a setback, they're complying with the zoning setback requirements for structures.
It's not a structure.
No, but they're complying with that requirement. I mean, they technically, in some cases, could build up to the property line of the fence.
You know, they're going several hundred feet of possible storage by putting it 15 feet in. I was just wondering why that is the case. Maybe I should ask the petitioner why is it. Okay, that was my only question.
Okay, gentlemen, any other questions?
Just to clarify that, the village isn't requiring that setback. The petitioner is just included that in their plans that they submitted to the village?
We discussed with the petitioner providing a setback around the lot area, so that would provide a buffer yard from the storage lot to adjacent property line.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear where that was coming from. All right, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Pittman?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. O'Laughlin?
Always. Brian, maybe you can answer this one for me. Type A screening, as I'm looking at it. We were talking about a fence line and a type A screening that would go with condition C of type A screening, which would be a brick wall or wood fence, and a row of small shade trees planted at 20-foot intervals.
Correct.
So we are going to require not only the fence, but some shade trees as well to go through there.
Correct.
Yeah. I'd be happier if they were closer together, but, okay, I see that. And then my other questions is, we're obviously, it's a strange question, but I think it kind of goes off of what Jim was saying too. The fence will meet the required building setbacks along the front 30 feet and side 15 feet property lines. Where did I read this? They're going to place a 6-foot cedar fence around a gravel surface storage area. Now, are they going to put the gravel surface storage area completely on site and we're going to, everything but 15 on the sides and 30 in the front? Or is this a smaller in the middle of the, you know what I'm saying? I don't see the design where it shows me the footprint.
Yeah, the slide which is currently displayed, you can see kind of the contours of the area that would be fenced in on the right-hand side.
Oh, okay, now I got it, I'm sorry. Yeah, that wasn't in my packet. I just didn't make that out.
Yeah, and then the interior of that fence area would be the entire storage lot, which would be gravel surfaced. So the area outside of the fence area would still be landscaped or green. And the inside of that would be gravel. And then equipment or vehicles would be stored inside that area.
Okay. And maybe this is a question for the petitioner, but I guess if we're going to put fence all the way around this property and only screen it on the residential side, wouldn't we want to consider asking them to also put screening for the fence along the front as well? Or was that?
That's,
Going to be a consideration,
Sure.
just to screen it even better.
20 feet apart.
Yeah, 20 feet apart, I'm thinking more like 10.
Ain't much of a screen.
No, that's not a screen. That's why I said I'd be more comfortable with 10. And can we, and this is something you can tell me, it says a row of small shade trees. Can we delineate or make a suggestion of what kind of trees?
There's specific trees that are listed within the ordinance that would be approved or acceptable, but if it's a condition of this committee.
I'm just saying, if we want screening, I would want something on the conifer line that is green all year round, or not.
It's a
Air
conditional
in
use
the
of,
wintertime.
it's a conditional use of it's a prerogative of the board to require, additional conditions and above the ones that staff has recommended or modify those, and the petitioner is open to those. You could propose additional landscaping.
Okay. And then two final questions. I noted that we're saying there's not going to be a building on site, but you didn't put it as one of the conditions that we would not be putting a building on site.
Yeah, it's not listed as a condition because there always could potentially develop a building on the property in the future.
Wouldn't we want to put it as a condition that they have to come back to us to put a building on site? Or
If it complies with the zoning requirements,
It
as
wouldn't
far
have
as
to.
setbacks, we wouldn't have to.
wouldn't have to? Okay. Then my only final concern, and I know you noted that it's not really noted for a storage yard not having to be paved. I'm just concerned, I mean, you got a lot of equipment that holds a lot of oils and diesels and all that, and you're leaving them wide open to the ground. If there's a leak, I don't know how often they're going to be checking their yard. How often that could be, 50 gallons of diesel spilled, fuel spilled into the ground that we don't know because they didn't check it for 2-3 weeks.
Sure. From a code standpoint, there is no requirement that the lot be paved. The lot, which is actually directly behind this, which is used for storage now, is not paved.
It's also not paved?
Correct.
Okay. All right, those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roloff.
It could wash off, maybe.
You'll stick to the pavement like we're gonna suck it on the ground,
All right. We're going to ask our petitioner now, Boulder Enterprises, if there's a representative here. Good evening.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good. Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to come.
Thank you. And if you just be kind enough to state your name and address for the record, that'd be helpful.
Sure. My name is Bob Guiazda.
Thank you.
I live in Barrington, but work at 316 Cary Point Drive here in Cary. My home address is 393 North Valley Court.
Thank you very much. We
Sure.
appreciate that. So if we could just turn over the presentation to yourself and maybe you could clarify some of the questions you may have heard along the way.
Sure. I don't have anything prepared. I'll kind of buzz through how we got to this point real quick, and then feel free to ask any questions. We're a sewer, water main, and road construction company. We have a fair amount of heavy equipment, backhoes and loaders, and all the supporting equipment with that. We do, almost all the work we do is publicly funded. We do work for a lot of municipalities, IDOT. Unfortunately, we haven't done any work for the village of Cary, but hopefully we will soon. We have a relatively small office and small yard on Cary Point Drive. And when we get a little bit slow, we overflow. We don't have enough room for our stuff, typically in the winter. In the summer, our yard is empty. In the winter, it becomes a little bit more crowded. We kind of are borrowing and stealing other space from friends and people to store some of our stuff as needed. When we saw this property for sale, we thought it would be a convenient location, only a couple hundred yards away, and we thought it would be a good fit. And we talked to the realtor and sort of kind of have come on terms to a price. And I met with Brian to talk about the possibility of using the space as a storage yard. And we have no intention of building a building there. And that's how we got to where we are.
Very good. So, gentlemen, questions for the petitioner?
Mr. Chairman, it just dawned on me that Boulder Construction has done work for the village of Lincolnshire,
Yes.
for which I am employed.
Yes.
However, I have not been actively involved or supervised any of that work, so I don't feel like I need to refrain from voting, but I did want to make sure that that was public and public record.
Thank you for the transparency, Mr. Pippin. Any other questions?
I do have a question. What type of storage is going to be located there? What type of materials?
Really, little to no materials, more construction equipment, backhoes, end loaders. We don't really, we own very few trucks and we don't own any big semis. If I say truck, I'm talking like an F-150 or 250 Ford pickup truck. Other things, you might not know what these are, but trench boxes, trench shoring, metal plates, manhole covers, things like that.
So to get these onto the site, do you have a truck to bring them onto the site to store it? Or how do you get them onto the site?
We actually hire a trucking company to, what's called lowboy service. We hire a company to transport our stuff from job to job and wherever it needs to go.
Then my one concern here is going down the road, before you get to the lot, there's a no truck traffic sign.
Yes.
So how would you do that?
My conversation with Brian was such that we would ask to move that sign back 100 yards and have that no trucks sign moved back 100, whatever that distance is, up to our proposed driveway would be, so another 100 feet. And then the truck would be able to get into the property, turn around and come back out.
That probably should have been part of this petition, I would have thought. I mean, because if we're approving truck traffic where currently it's not allowed.
The truck traffic sign is intended to restrict truck traffic from going in the residential area. Just due to the character of the development, there are lots that are that front on the Janus Road that do have access there in the industrial area. So there are trucks that would make deliveries to those properties as well. It's not a requirement of the petition to call that out as far as the relocation. If the use is approved, we look at the traffic patterns and maybe relocate the sign to the point. We keep the sign there, but also have no trucks beyond this point sign possibly added closer to the property to restrict further access beyond this nuisance property.
Any other questions?
What's the largest piece of equipment that you have that you would be storing there?
About 400 size backhoe.
Okay. And those are typically with the boom 8, 9 feet in height, something like maybe 10?
12.
12? Yeah, he would know.
Easily 12.
Yeah, Frank would know better than I would. So.
And that's folded up. I mean, if we're sitting straight up and down, 20.
Yeah, okay. So basically the largest piece that you have would be up in the air 12 feet, something like that. And
That's correct.
right. Okay. And then as far as the cab on that vehicle?
I would say it's about the same.
About the same? Okay.
Maybe a little less.
Okay. Just trying to get a picture of what can be seen.
Yeah, I'm going to continue that line, Mr. Bill.
Well, and I guess that was gonna go into my question too, is not just the backhoes, the front end loaders, what size are you using?
We have mostly Volvos, Volvo L70, so that would be.
70, so you're still looking at about 12 feet, and 12 feet high. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little less, maybe 10, but
So I think where this may have been going is that if you're looking from the street to the equipment, there was an agreement to have a fence, a screening of about 6 feet. I think maybe that's the question that we're asking ourselves as we speak. Are you flexible on I don't know how the 6 feet number came to be.
basically that's what we put in at our current property on Cary Point.
Yes.
So I just mimicked that, had to have a starting point. So Brian asked, for me to have a starting point, and I just took a picture of the fence we have existing, and that worked 3 years ago, so I thought it would be adequate.
What is our height regulation?
The maximum for a manufacturing district is outside of 7.
Personally, I don't care if it's 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, it's not.
It's a fence, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we understand. Thank you for your candor.
Sure.
So before we conclude this part of our discussion, does anyone else have any questions?
I do have one more. What type of security do you have for the site?
We
Or
don't.
would you have?
The fence would be the security.
No cameras or
No?
they lock it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do lock it, but those things are pretty hard to steal.
It is, but I'm just thinking, kids see that, it's something that, hop fence come in there and mess around.
Well, absolutely, but right behind our proposed storage yard, there's another storage yard, Schnabel Foundation, and they've got all sorts of toys back there that could be played with, as well as 100 yards away, our existing office is the same. I realize this is closer to residential, but, yeah, anybody can hop the fence and play, for sure. And as you spoke of earlier, we'd be more than happy to plant trees.
That was my next question. I mean, are you like locked to the, would you have an issue with putting
No, not at
trees
all.
closer together than one every 20 foot?
No,
It's just,
no, not at all.
seeing right through. I mean, if we had a little bit more screening.
That,
Put in that 15-foot area behind.
well, that didn't really come up in my conversation earlier with Brian. We'd be happy to plant trees.
Okay.
And as far as the setbacks go, I would prefer not to have a setback in the back, because there's already a nice tree line there. There's two tree lines kind of in that, what would that be, south and west sections of the property. I just assume fence up to that and leave it stop there, and, leave the tree line as it is, of course.
Oh, that'd be preferred too,
Yeah.
Trees alone, absolutely.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you've been sitting there patiently, so thank you for your patience. This is the time where we open it up for public comments, so whichever way you'd like to move forward, thank you very much. And again, just for the record, you know.
Hi, my name's Diane Took, and I live at 416 Cary Avenue.
Thank you very much.
My property is below where this is. Where Schnabel's is, that's below us even. It's like on the same level at the top part of our property. As you go up the hill, there's more elevation.
Mhm.
So that all comes down at us. And when you're talking about stuff leaking in the ground, that's where it's coming, it's down towards our groundwater. We have wells. We don't want that. We don't want any storage up there. We'd rather she would have put maybe a professional boat of some sort that would have had just, people coming and going on their regular daily job. Trucks tying up the traffic to that one way in and one way out of Jandis. And if you drove there today, you went right past my house on the corner, the red one.
Okay.
It ties up traffic. Trucks do come down there. You can put the sign wherever you want. It doesn't matter. I've experienced many trucks and have seen them damage property and whatnot. That's beside the point. We do not want our road tied up. We do not want vehicles leaking, whatever, and we don't want our privacy taken away. Because it just seems like that kind of thing just invites too many, people coming around. Like you said, kids. There's a lot of them that roam, come down on skateboards and go riding their bikes around there. And who knows when they're going to get the idea that they might want to do something, whether they go on Mr. Schnabel's machines or not. So, that's all.
Thank you very much.
My name's Don Webster. I live at 436 Marquette Avenue. I'm here to support my neighbors present and those who are not here tonight in overseeing the development of the property entering Jandis Village. My property backs up to Jandis, the industrial park there. And over the last 20 years, I've had my own issues due to the fact that there's no separation between the industrial park and the neighborhood. And these three properties here are the last opportunity of separation between the industrial park and the neighborhood. So it's important that we get this right. I have concerns about the development of this property being sold to a construction company. It's going to be a visual problem, it's going to be a noise problem, a traffic problem, and maybe a safety problem. This doesn't sound like light commercial to me. I see only three options for development of this property. Would be single-family homes, townhomes, or one single-family home, and the village buys village properties, and there's our buffer zone. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Risa Reese. I live at 405 Cary Avenue, directly across the street from the property. We were here, what is it, 2 months ago?
Yes.
There's been no change. I mean, it's still a residential area. We still live across the street. It is still the beginning of our neighborhood. And several of you were down there today or sometime this week, and you can see how the roads go. And it's a storage yard, really? In a residential neighborhood? When we were here the last time, if you check your notes, Mrs. Fuchs made a comment about when she bought that property, it was stated that it was farm and agriculture. I never, ever got a notification that there was a village board meeting changing it to industrial. Never. Maybe the 250 feet notification line, that's what we were told, that you had to be notified. The only people that had to be notified were 250 feet away from the change. That's really not very much space. That's a really tiny increment of distance. Where am I? Now, he also, I was just writing notes as different people were speaking, and you said that, Mr. Simmons said that they could, it wasn't Boulder's intention, but now they didn't even have to come to you and ask to build a building because they're using it as storage. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, so I heard it correctly. So they could come in and build a building that we that we came here and expressed our dissatisfaction or not happiness about 2 months ago, and you agreed with us. Kids, bicycles, walking, people from the industrial park walk down there and walk back, kids on bikes, skateboards all the time, right by there. I mean, he's talking heavy equipment coming in and out right in front of my house. I just don't think that that's a good idea. And I mean, it was supposed to be residential. That was what was there. Now, when it changed, that one section, those two sections changed to industrial, I don't know, that might be something else should look into. And I don't know if it ever was, what it was. I know it was a big hole in the ground. It was a gravel pit that was filled in with trees and rocks and debris and then dirt to flatten it out. I know that because I was here at that time. I think that's it, but I really, beyond what we're talking about tonight, that 250 feet, I think there's something wrong with that. I think maybe the village needs to expand that, because if we were the only ones notified, only one, I mean, the people across the street, they live in a home that is owned by Lori and Joe Fuchs. They're not going to be here protesting. It's a rental house. So we were the only neighbors that were notified, and we made copies and contacted our neighbors. I mean, it's a pretty unique little neighborhood, and I don't really think that an industrial building or a storage yard should be there for a lot of reasons. Anyway. Excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good evening. Hi, my name is Ed Reese, 405 Cary Avenue in Cary. I first want to say that, from our perspective, we never wanted this to be a battleground between ourselves and the youth. We've known it for years when this turned into something that which did not happen. I'm in agreement with most of the objections offered by the other residents, but I also understand the desire for Boulder to expand their operation and the difficulty of doing that, finding property that is suitable to what they want to do. But my primary concern is ecological and health. And Mr. O'Laughlin brought that up about, a diesel leak. So this proposal poses a significant danger to the groundwater in our area. I don't know the principals of Boulder, but would like to believe that they, like most ethical business people, are concerned with the environment and would not intentionally harm the environment or create hazardous waste conditions. But if the company has outgrown its present facility, obviously the owners aren't the only ones working there. It's funny how people are often more concerned about something being spilled inside on a concrete floor rather than a gravel lot. I don't know if I've ever seen someone intentionally toss a quart of paint thinner or solvent on a shop floor. But I have often watched as people empty old stored gas or antifreeze on the ground, or discard half-full cans of something. If a fuel tank or oil pan of a truck or machine begins to leak on a hard surface, it's noticed, and the condition is resolved and the spill is cleaned up. When this happens on a gravel lot, the toxins simply leach into the ground, because you never know the leak is there. There was a condition in Fox River Grove a number of years ago where a deadly solvent contaminated the groundwater. There's one company that used that product, but no one was ever found to be responsible. And then, of course, we have Ringwood with Ron Haas. And the groundwater contamination has proven to be a serious problem for lots of people. Those who died from the cancer would love to attest to that, but can't. The Illinois State Plumbing Code has strict regulations for storage of cars and trucks inside buildings because of the hazard potential. The US EPA is referenced in the code book. If they're concerned about how hazardous materials are contained on a hard surface, they should be and probably are even more concerned about the potential for groundwater contamination coming from a gravel storage area in an area that is known to be only more sand and gravel. Our concerns about that drinking water for our homes, our concern about this is that drinking water for our home and all the homes in the Janus subdivision, including the Fuses, is well water. When I moved into subdivision more than 35 years ago, my only concern was Cotter Company. And then the grandchildren of the Maluckys, the people who sold this property to the Fuses, told us about the deformed amphibians found in the neighborhood ponds. We had our water tested and it came back safe. This was years before the Carey Point Industrial Park. And until now, I haven't given much thought about the safety of our water. However, with the suggestion that this site be approved for outside storage, I've become aware of other permeable surface storage areas in the area. And I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the village of Cary require driveways for any, paved driveways for any new construction? Doesn't the village of Cary prohibit motor vehicles from being parked on grass or off of paved surfaces? What is the motivating thought process behind these ordinances? If this is the case, shouldn't expanded parking areas also be paved? And not just paved, but also properly drained to restrict the runoff and potential groundwater contamination. Within the past few weeks, another open area, which I believe belongs to Durex, was fenced. This space has since become a parking lot. There is a paved area at the building that slopes sharply away to the gravel space, and there's no apparent drainage. Just like the land the housing development in East Chicago has been built on, this is a potentially serious health issue that we would like the village to investigate. In the case of the property in question tonight, the Durex property, it's not a question of if there will be a problem, but when. And of course, then the next question is, who's responsible? Because once it's in the groundwater, you don't get it back out. I mean, there's been all kinds of studies about the Ron Haas thing, showing the plume of how these chemicals have just expanded in the ground and contaminated an entire area. The thing about the truck sign, the trucks have no way of turning around once you hit it down into the subdivision. They go all the way down to the end, make a 3-point turn, and then try to come back, or they back out. With the kids, there are still summer homes there where people come to visit. And I think it was Sunday, there was a family down there, they had a mini bike, and they use that as a tow vehicle to tow the kids up the hill. It's one of the few hills in Cary. So I'm telling the kids up the hill on the rollerblades, so they can, take time trials going back down, or with the skateboards. And there's no way in the world, and the traffic there isn't good, but to add, more traffic would just compound the problems. So, I hope you consider this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. Just please come forward. It's a public portion of our meeting. You're welcome to speak.
Can I face the residents, or do I need to face the?
Whatever's comfortable for you is good with us. Again, just for the record, please, sir. Just, yeah, please.
Bob Guiasta, Boulder Contractors.
Thank you very much.
I have 3 young kids. I completely understand what you're saying, and you brought up a good point. Where our office is now, our parking lot is paved. We would not have a problem paving this.
Get it drained also.
Well, of course, yeah. That wasn't a conversation that Brian and I had, and quite honestly, the subject of something spilling and leaching into the groundwater, it never dawned on me. Where we are, we're on city water. So if you guys are on wells, I could see where this would be a concern to you. So.
But also, if your cranes are sticking up, 5-6 feet over the top of that fence, I don't want to look at that. I go out in my backyard, that's what I see is that hill up there.
So there's not much I can do about that. But,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I don't want to look at that.
We're just trying to let one person speak at a time. I appreciate your concern, but
Yeah,
one at
okay,
a time.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if the concern is, there's stuff going to leach into the ground, I'll tell you, number one, we don't have any diesel fuel storage, we don't have a big vat of diesel fuel anywhere, nor would we. And that could be written into the condition of the, whatever permit. But you're right, the construction vehicles, if some kid pokes a hole in a gas, in a fuel line and it leaks, never thought of that. So if we had to pave, if it would be a make or break deal, and we had to pave the parking lot, we'd pave the parking lot. So, well,
It's just one at a time,
yeah.
folks. I mean, that's the process.
So there's
Thank you.
2 industrial lots. The one residential lot, we're not touching, we're not proposing to touch, it would stay green space. We would do the best we could to improve the aesthetics of the perimeter of the lot with trees and landscaping, and that's all we can really offer. We can try and, we're not a big company, we don't have stuff coming in and out every day, we don't even have stuff coming in and out every week. Thankfully, if I'm doing my job, our construction equipment is on our job sites and rarely stored. So if a truck were to come in there once a week, that would probably be it. And the truck would be able to get into the lot, turn around in the lot, and not have to go down the residential neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'm sorry, but we're going to do this. We're going to have you come back up. You're welcome to both stand by the podium, but I just wanted to make sure we're giving everyone equal time here.
Ed Reese again. You said that you're going to leave the other lot green space. Does this mean that you're buying the entire package of the property, and that residential lot is a part of the purchase that you are making?
Yes. Yeah, and that would stay, I can't remember what it looks like right now, but it's kind of scrubby and green.
Yeah.
It would stay very much like that. We cut the grass. We maintain the perimeter, we would make it look nice. I mean, not.
No, I understand. I thought we were just talking about the 2 industrial properties at this time with the
Correct.
residential lot being off the side, and not recognizing that you're purchasing the entire chunk
That's
of the 3 lots.
That's correct. I would prefer to only purchase the 2, but I think the way that the seller has it set up is it's all 3. And if this all goes down and you would like to buy it, please come up and buy it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Please.
Just like we spoke of, Reese,
Thank you.
just like we spoke before,
Can you, sorry, Ms. Reese, thank you.
Just like 2 months ago, one person buys it, one person sells it. No one knows what's going to happen down the road. That piece of property is in our neighborhood. When you drive down there, you can see it. Very little of it is industrial park. Down around the corner is industrial park. I got that. But that's in our neighborhood. It should not be that. They originally wanted, the Fuchses originally wanted to build townhomes there. That was what they originally wanted to do. They wanted to build 7. The village said 4. I remember that from our last meeting. This is just not acceptable. It's just not a good idea. It's a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood. And, you know, we live quite a ways away from where all these other storage yards are. And I don't know what the noise rules are, but it's pretty darn early when all those pipes bang and the metal bangs. And you probably hear it more than I do. It starts really early in the morning. And, you know, you can call and you can call and you can call. Well, you know, the next week it's again. Please don't allow this. It should be residential.
Thank you. Good evening.
My name is Jim Cook. I live at 416 Gary, so I'm probably about 100 feet from the property. I think as I talked to you guys last time over the last issue, is I moved out of lines to get away from a lot of the stuff, you know. And when we first drove up here, this was 10, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it is. They had that big storage lot on the corner of Janice Cutoff in 14 with all those sewer pipes. It looked like a dump. And my first thing when I told my realtor, where the hell are you taking me? I mean, I'm not moving here. I'm moving out of lines to get away from this. So then we come in and we're looking around and we came down the hill and well, I found my house. It was pretty nice. It was kind of a different, you're into a different area, even though there's a little industrial park there. And, but, you know, you don't see any, finally we cleaned all that up. That was good. But it you know, for me to come home out of the city, I drive around the city all day long looking at crap, you know, in all different neighborhoods. And I chose to live up here to drive 150 to 200 miles round trip every day, from all the way down, you know, all the way to the south side of Chicago, all the way down to Alsip, and come all the way back up here to get into my little piece of heaven, okay? You come down here, it's just like I'm at the lake. So now, 100 feet from me, I'm gonna come in and see a fence, and I don't know if it's gonna be blocked in the front, but it really doesn't matter, because I'm gonna see 6 feet of cranes and whatever, and, well, this is well, it's too bad. Well, to me, one, it's an eyesore. It doesn't help my personal, why I'm here. And secondly, if I decide to sell my house, there's gonna be another guy that's gonna look like, huh, I'm not gonna buy a house that has cranes sitting next to it. You know, so it's gonna be money out of my pocket. And not only that, my own personal, you know, satisfaction of living someplace where I can come out the back and it looks like I'm living in Wisconsin and I'm paying $8,000 a year in property taxes. When I bought it was $4,000. You know what I mean? I'm like, what is this? You know, it's to me, and then when these guys brought up the groundwater, that is a big issue. Okay, so if he paves it, or whether it's wherever it is, you come down and take a look at where the water runs down the hill. When you get a 2-inch, 3-inch rainfall, I get a flood and it tears out my bushes, all the mulch I put down, and all of that water comes from the top of the hill, comes all the way down, goes underneath the street, it's under Mildred. It goes in his yard.
My backyard is
And his whole backyard is flooded until it can get down to the river, to the park. So whatever's up there is gonna just come right down. So my question is who's carrying the liability insurance on that? Has he done any perk tests on the ground to see if there's anything there, so that if something does spill, I mean, it just seems like a bad deal for me. The eyesore, the whole work. That's just my opinion. And it will affect me financially.
Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
My name's Bob Barrett. I live at 479 Marquette Avenue, at the corner there. I don't know if I have anything new to say, but I'm expressing really what I said last time I was here, which is it's a special neighborhood, and I feel the same way Jim does. When you come to the neighborhood, just seeing all the trees, and I feel like I've got a special place where I live, and as I imagine over the last couple weeks, I knew we'd come back here. I knew that this wasn't over, and I was envisioning some kind of industrial structure, something like that. It just made me heartbroken. I feel like it's inevitable that I'm going to get steamrolled, and my neighborhood is going to be worse than what I moved into, and so I really, talking with a heavy heart, I feel like my neighborhood, my life is being impacted potentially if we move forward with this. So I want you to consider that too. And to echo also, I have kids, and I see kids going down that hill. I think it's a dangerous situation to have big trucks going in. The angle there as the road goes down is very dangerous. When you're walking, you got to be really careful. Now you're actually the risk of it legitimately allowing trucks to come in there. There's a chance that people's lives could be affected by this. So I'm really proud of the neighborhood, and I really hope that you consider not to allow this storage, this motion to go forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak? All right, then we're going to close the public portion of this meeting. And I think what we're going to ask Mr. Simmons to do for the benefit of the committee is to reframe the discussion so that everybody understands what the parcels are, and try as best you can, Mr. Simmons, to address some of the comments you may have heard from the public. I know you were taking notes, and then we'll get into more discussion, gentlemen, okay? All right, over to you, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as the proposal, again, the storage lot is only proposed on the two parcels which are presently zoned manufacturing. Those properties have been zoned manufacturing for several years. When the subdivision was approved for the industrial park, those two parcels were part of the original subdivision and have been zoned industrial since they've been in the village. The property which is zoned for single family is part of the residential portion of the subdivision, which is located along the river. That historically has been zoned residential and has not changed from that standpoint. To the fact that was brought up as far as the agricultural reference or use of land, that's how it's been appraised. So that's never actually been developed. It was a mining facility previously, and the assessor, when assessing the property, classified it as agricultural, but it's always been zoned manufacturing under those regulations. So the proposal is only speaking towards the two parcels on the slide here, the small parcel that's under the road portion of Janus Road on the image, and then the larger parcel, which is in the middle. The third parcel is not subject to petition for the proposed use, but that would remain residential. The proposed fence, again, is a 6-foot fence, is what was provided for in the petition. Code would allow a fence up to 7 feet in height. The board were to request a taller fence from that standpoint. From a code perspective, the manufacturing district allows storage lots to be a use that's acceptable or permissible within the district. It's not permissible by right, so that it could be developed without going through the zoning process. It requires conditional use approval so that it can be reviewed, additional conditions placed on approval if so warranted. To one comment that was made earlier, as far as if a building can constructed on the property without going through the zoning process, that is the case. If a use was proposed for the property that complied with the zoning regulations, it could be an office building warehouse type use, as long as it complied with the building setbacks and partner requirements for that use. It could be developed without even going through the zoning process and permissible by right. Similar to the single-family lot, which is here, somebody could develop that with a home that complied with the building setbacks and wouldn't have to go through a variation process to construct that structure. So the request this evening before you is just simply, it's a request for a conditional use for the storage lot. There were no variations that were requested. Staff did propose a few conditions in the staff report based off review and discussions with the petitioner, but we're open to discuss those further as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simmons. Gentlemen, questions about the petition, comments? So, Mr. Simmons, I'll kick this one off. Just to clarify, the manufacturing property, that has been in our code for how long?
I can't speak to when it was originally zoned manufacturing, but my belief is that ever since the property has been in the village, it has been zoned for manufacturing use.
Okay.
Just a review, the last time we talked about this property, if I remember, the issue was to rezone the residential to comply with the rest of the property, to make it one zoning. So this is a little bit different matter in my mind. I think the residents have a reasonable expectation that a piece of property that is zoned residential, when they buy their property, will remain there. Looking at the rest of it, though, it's been zoned what it is since this property's been in the village. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pippin. Other questions from committee?
Would it be possible to put in there that instead of just the trees, I'm gonna miss the actual term, but elevate the ground? I think one of the challenges,
Berming.
So one of the challenges that I would see, and obviously we've stated, is that you can see it above. And if we can't do anything with a bigger fence, if you do a berm where the residential side is of that lot, in my mind, I was actually a few steps ahead. If you did a berm with the fence and the trees, the berm would elevate the fence, which would make it harder to see, which I think is one of the issues. The other thing that I thought was, since we did decide that all of the parcels are being bought, which makes sense, would it be in the interest of everybody to maybe make the property line, move the line back where it kind of makes an odd shape into it there? Why not just kind of perpendicular, put the berm and the fence, kind of make it uniform versus kind of cutting it? I don't know if that's that much more storage. I mean, obviously this is additional storage, so any additional storage is great, but that was just my thought, to kind of make it more uniform, to kind of keep that separation in there. I don't know if that's something the petitioner could think about, or
If you were to basically modify the contours of the property from that standpoint, it would be a replatting of the properties, and that portion that would be now part of the industrial lot would require rezoning as well. So
right, it would be making the industrial residential, right? I guess that's what I'm saying is, could you push it back?
That'd be the way I'm redoing.
Yeah, if you're talking about straight into fence, you're actually gonna push it into that residential piece of the two.
No, I'm talking about taking that little,
Do you want to go up?
Yeah.
Will that be helpful?
talking about making this
Yeah.
perpendicular.
Can you turn that
Here,
back
yeah,
up?
you got it. I'm not breaking this. All right. Better. Talking about just instead of this coming here, cutting it there. That way, it's essentially taking this little segment out, making this just like all the other ones, uniform. And then you can put the berm here with the fence and the trees, which.
Squaring off the property.
Squaring off, right. This is a thought. I mean,
So, just so you're aware that if you so choose, when we get to the motion, you're welcome to include that. It's up to yourself to make a decision to say that you'd like to make that as a condition. Okay?
And one point to speak to that as well, if you can look at the plat, which is on the slide here, as far as the size of lots, the two residential lots that are immediately to the east, if you will, both have widths of 60 feet. And the lot that would be remaining, this portion, which should still be zoned residential, is wider than those lots that have 76 foot width. So something to take into consideration as far as the separation between the existing residential uses and that property. But there could be landscaping or berming in that area that could help screen that portion of the adjacent property.
So it'd be about a 60-ish, if you're looking, because what the back side is 134, so if you're evening it out-ish sort of feet, right? Is that what the difference, I guess?
Yeah, if you look at the back property, line for that residential lot is 134 feet in depth, so you have about an extra 60 feet that kind of residential lot extends a little bit further west into that portion.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Graziano? Mr. O'Loughlin?
No.
Okay. So we're going to call the motion. The chair will entertain a motion to recommend to the Village Board of Trustees approval of a conditional use for a storage lot for the property located at 320 Jandish Road, subject to the following conditions. 1, the conditional use shall be granted to Boulder Enterprises LLC for the property located at 320 Jandish Road. A wood fence of at least 6 feet in height shall be installed around the storage area and shall be set back 30 feet from Jandish Road and 15 feet from all other property lines. 3, to provide screening of the storage area from the adjacent residential uses, a type A screen shall be provided along its eastern edge.
I would be happy to make that motion if we drop the part on item number 2 about 15 feet from all other property lines, and just say a fence around the area 30 feet from Jandish Road and wherever they decide they're going to put the fence.
So if we can get a second, Mr. Graziano, I think we can come back and smooth this out. So if you
Well, I'm making the motion in that form. If somebody wants to add the 15 back on or not second my motion, that's fine.
Are we gonna add conditions after?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. So, thank you very much. So, Mr. Graziano, so there's no confusion and we get this correct in our wording here, precisely what it is you would like to remove?
All that portion of number 2 after the words Jandish Road.
So in 15 feet from all the property lines?
Yes.
Okay. And just so we're clear, Mr. O'Loughlin, you're comfortable with that as the second?
I'm comfortable.
Okay. Okay, do we have further questions or comments on the motion or addition to the conditional use or the items? You were talking earlier about trees and your distance together.
I'm going with your idea. I'm still trying to think of how to word it.
As am I. All right, well, it's
Just as a point of information, under 17.30.068, type A barrier, one of the options is a berm.
But I think what we were looking at, or what he was suggesting was a berm with a fence on top of it and trees in front of it to really screen the area.
Yep.
On the residential side.
On the residential side.
There's already a whole bunch of trees over there. If you've been out to look at the property, the whole thing is surrounded with big trees.
It's scrub brush. It's not
Okay.
trees.
They look like face trees to me, but.
Yeah, I think visually, the appeal, again, I'm being in real estate, I've seen it in different industrial parks. You have the berm, you have the kind of versus, you have the pine right there. It's very tough to see. I mean, I pointed out to my buyers when they're buyers, and I pointed out to my sellers when they're sellers. It's gonna happen, that's gonna be there, but people still buy, people still sell. That, in my mind, is a way to make it look nice. If you're, I don't know, again, I'm sure maybe someone could buy it eventually and put a park there. I mean, if you put that back, you put the line back, in my mind, I think it makes it just a little bit more pleasant than just, because it jags out. It looks like it looks like it was there for a purpose that we're doing it. So I don't know how to word it either. So that's how I'm trying to.
The discussion I heard from people here is, as I drive down Jandis Road toward Terry Road, I'm going to see this there. Now, you're proposing a berm at the back end of this property. You're still gonna see everything from Jandis Road and on Terry Road.
Well, that was never ever gonna change. I mean, someone can come in and do this. If this is gonna happen, which they can do, I mean, it's been a manufacturing, it can be anything. So if this is what it's gonna be, what is the best, in my opinion, what is the best way to make it work and try to alleviate some of the other challenges or issues that they have? And so this is kind of my way of maybe making something work.
If I may jump in here as well, looking at the proposed land use with the existing land use next to it from a residential standpoint, under our code, the requirement is for a type A screen between those two types of land uses. So the condition would be to enforce that regulation to say that a type A screen is installed there. Type A screen can be several different varieties of screening. A brick wall, wood fence with a row of shade trees at 20-foot intervals is one requirement that would apply with that. There are other, also be a landscape burden with fluctuating heights, and various landscape shrubs and small shade trees intermixed in that as well. So I think, if you want to require the type A screen and have more specificity.
That's what I was going to say, we specify more on what the type A screening would be.
Right, so it could be in a type A, A screen, under the code as far as the requirements, where you spell more than an interval 20-foot separation, to exceed that standard with various plant materials and possible burn. In that location could be a condition that could be added, and review the staff will ensure that we pass with the board is.
From my observation, this property is already elevated above the surrounding property, so they're already going to be looking somewhat uphill to see anything from their residence.
Berming's not going to make a difference. At that point, you're only going to be looking at.
Sure.
I guess my contention would be on the wood fence at least 6 feet in height, that we make it 7. And we ask that there be conifers placed every 10 feet as opposed to 20, and conifers so that they're curving around.
Is there anything else?
Yep. No storage tanks allowed on the facility. And I believe the gentleman said he had no issue paving it whatsoever, so.
Can you repeat the last comment, please?
The gentleman said he had no problem paving it, so the big lot will be paved as opposed to gravel.
All right, so, Mr. O'Loughlin, do you want to make those items A, B, and C off of 3, or do you want those to be listed as 4, 5, and 6?
Well, one of them would be A off of 2. Well, no, it'd be 2 and 3 together, so. No, okay, so 2, we would want number 2 to be 7 feet in height, not at least 6.
Right.
Number 3, we would want the screening to be type A screening, but the type A to be conifers every 10 feet as opposed to whatever the builder decides to put.
So what if we call that A?
That'd be 3A.
Yeah.
And then 4 and 5 would be no storage tanks and paved parking, in the paved parking area, or the paved lot,
Okay,
not parking area.
got it. So,
That would be my addition to the motion, if the motion.
What was 5, Frank?
No, paved parking area.
Oh,
okay.
and
That's,
Mr. Graziano, that would be.
as long as Mr. Graziano agrees, that's the motion.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's make sure that let's step through this again, everyone, so that we're not confused about what we're being asked to vote on. And Mr. Simmons, if you want to frame it, or I can frame it.
Sure, I can do so.
Okay.
The recommendation would be for approval of conditional use for a storage lot for the property with 5 conditions. First condition would be the conditional use granted Boulder Enterprises for the property located at 320 Janice Road. Second condition would be a wood fence at least 7 feet in height shall be installed around the storage area and shall be set back 30 feet from Janice Road. Third condition would be to provide screening of the storage area from adjacent residential uses. A type A screen shall be provided along its eastern edge, but with conifers at a separation of 10 feet.
Is it 10 or 20?
Well, 20 is code, but 20 is wide, so I said 10.
Okay, thank you.
It's a couple extra trees.
No storage tanks shall be stored on the property. And then condition 5, the lot shall be paved in lieu of use of gravel.
With drainage.
Well, they'll have to, that goes with the design.
So I just need to remind everyone, please forgive me, but this is a discussion that we're having amongst ourselves, and the public portion is closed, and I understand your concern, but please understand our process. Thank you. So, a good suggestion, Mr. Simmons. We want to double check with the petitioner before we vote on this, that you're comfortable with the discussion that just transpired.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of having to put all the money into paving it, but if it's a compromise that makes the residents more amicable to it and leaves everybody with a little bit better taste in their mouth, then yeah, I'd rather leave it in gravel, but if it's a condition that's important to the village, then we would do that.
Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, I want to go ahead.
And just one more question. The driveway or the entrance, and I know that there's kind of a makeshift one there now. Is it possible to shift it up? Because it's almost on the curb, given the person, you know, I know you're not going to stop them all, but what I'm thinking is can you push it up on the drive there, or no? Is that, I guess I'm not totally, I drove by it, but I don't know exactly.
Well, I'm going to ask Mr. Simmons to just clarify what it is that we're talking about as the entrance, so there's no confusion.
Yeah, you can see it on the slide here, basically, just to the right of the 125 for the lot in the north, on the southern portion here. And Mr. Williams is asking if it could be relocated further to the west, closer to Carey Point Drive versus the curve, which would be down towards the residential subdivision. That certainly is something to work with as long as it would comply with setbacks for the adjacent property, but we have the driveway can be relocated further west without requiring additional approvals.
So just to clarify, if that were the case, do we need to put that in as a condition, or is that something that...
In my opinion, the access can be located wherever's the best site distance and what makes sense.
Yeah.
This is a sketch of kind of what's existing out there.
Brian, or Mr. Simmons, I'm sorry. Maybe you could express your concern, and then when you sit down with to look at this project and finalize permitting and everything, you can discuss.
You know, it's just because of where the curve is, I mean, it almost looks like it, I mean, again, this is a sketch, but the further you push it up west, the more noticeable it'll be. The more it's on the curve, it's probably harder to turn in and whatnot. And I would just like to try and limit the traffic from reaching that curve and you know, hitting that height.
So it's just a hope.
Just something we're going to review during the permit stage with the engineering folks, then make sure we comply with sidelines and design standards.
And also, just to clarify, any and all drainage issues and compensatory storage for the property will also all be reviewed and will be in compliance with the McHenry County stormwater ordinances as well before any permits will be issued, correct?
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
The question was, I've got, with the paving, I would imagine there's permeable, like a maximum, permeable surface. I don't know what that is.
For manufacturing.
Because if we pave the whole area, that may be over the impermeable surface.
Yeah, it would be something we'd review at the permit stage as well to make sure it's still complied with the zoning requirements for maximum lot coverage.
Would it have to come back for a variance then if it's so?
If it would, we basically the approval, if the recommendation is here and the village board approves that it would be set at the maximum permitted by code. So if they wanted to exceed that, it would require coming back for variance.
And that's when we would look to if it'd be a curb and gutter or a sheet drainage of the paving.
And that would be part of the McHenry County stormwater ordinance. You would have to make sure, I mean, there's certain things you have to do to make sure that the water goes where the water's supposed to go.
Yeah, I believe the coverage is 80%.
Yeah, I think it's 80 for manufacturing. I was trying to look it up, but.
Yeah. It's either 80 or 85 right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through it, and then I'm like, where's the page is that?
Of course, we could rezone it through, what is it, 3R and.
Yeah, no.
All right, I think those were very good questions and very good suggestions, so thank you very much. Okay, I just need to clarify, are there any other comments or questions, conditions that you want to include in this petition? So the petition has articulated the motion from Mr. Graziano, seconded by Mr. O'Laughlin. The discussion that took place, we're all comfortable with those items now, right? Okay? Are there any questions about that before we vote? Okay. Mrs. Bragg, if you call for vote.
Graziano?
Yes.
O'Laughlin?
No.
Pittman?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Kretschmer?
No.
Corey?
Yes. Wow. Yeah, I'm just double checking. I just want to make sure. So, to the gentleman from Boulder Construction, you have an approval, and as I was saying earlier, the process here is we're recommending for this to go forward, but at the end of the day, it's up to the village officials that are elected by our community to make the final decision about this application. So my recommendation to you, sir, would be to stay in close contact with Mr. Simmons. He'll direct you to the next set of dates around this, okay? So thank you very much. Before we conclude,
Will we be notified when you're going to discuss it on the board?
I'm certain you will be.
Also be present?
Yes, that's part of the process. And I know you were asking a question, so I'll just try to address this. We're going to be in the process of reviewing the entire code. We're working with Mr. Simmons on that, and your comments were noted, and we'll review those as the time becomes appropriate. But before we adjourn our meeting here today, Mr. Simmons, did you have any other things that you wanted to address?
The only thing to mention, we will not have a meeting on the 25th of this month, so 2 weeks from today, there will not be a zoning meeting. Our next meeting will be the first or second Thursday in September. We will have a public workshop, which will be the first part of our Unified Development Ordinance process, going through and updating the zoning regulations, sign regulations, and subdivision regulations for the village. That will be a workshop that's open to the public. So primarily be discussion with the zoning board as far as concerns or issues that you have or seen within the zoning code, possible areas for updates or changes. We also will have 2 other workshops during the day. That day, one commercial workshop in the early afternoon where commercial property owners on September 8th would be able to attend to discuss the zoning issues related to commercial properties. And we also will be having a residential workshop as well, so residents that are in the community that have feedback or concerns regarding zoning regulations to be able to come and voice their opinions in a workshop format. So those will be taking place on September 8th throughout the day at various times. And those will be posted on the village's website. We also did do a mailing with our village water bills recently that included that information as well.
Very good. So before we close, everyone, is there any other questions or comments from the ZBA members? All right, with that,
So moved.
Second.
meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.